Ford has provided us with some of the most legendary vehicles, such as the Mustang Shelby GT500 or the Boss 420, that have brought us excitement to the track. Still, not all Ford muscle car models have been greatly produced and considered to be extraordinary. Some models have been so disastrous, they're best left in the past. Join us as we travel through this exciting ride of the 8 worst classic Ford muscle cars ever made. Number 8, the 1975 Ford Elite. Let's kick this off with the 1975 Ford Elite at base level. The Elite seemed like it had the potential to be something more with its big, posh 4-seater coupe and the prospect of a V8 engine. The base model came with a 5.8-liter V8 engine, which seemed quite powerful, but it produced only a meager 150 horsepower, which was not enough sensation to give it that muscle car touch. The Elite was luxurious with all of the features that one saw in a luxury car, but it lacked the power, strength, and speed of a sports car. It takes roughly 11 seconds to get from 0 to 60, meaning that it was more of a long-distance car than an acceleration monster. But due to its size and heavy weight, it drove like a barge, and while negotiating corners, it was slow and clumsy. Finally, the Elite's attempt at merging raw luxury and performance turned it into a style-only car. Number 7, the 1978 Ford Fairmont Futura. Next up is the 1978 Ford Fairmont Futura, which failed to impress the masses of muscle car buyers. In its essence, the Fairmont Futura was a plain, mid-sized car intended to fulfill the needs of average motoring folk. Unfortunately, Ford decided to try to give it a sportier touch, which was definitely not the right direction to take it. The base engine was an anemic 2.3-liter inline-4 that produced slightly over 80 horsepower. Even with the V8 engine option, the car could barely reach 130 horsepower, which simply knocked down the Fairmont Futura in the performance category. With torque rated at 115 pound-feet of torque at 2,000 RPM, the Fairmont Futura had a 0 to 60 of 12 seconds, which is quite slow by today's standards compared to other muscle cars of that period. Its rather mundane look, as it was square and unelaborate, did not help it in any way. Number 6, the 1983 Ford EXP. The 1983 Ford EXP was one of the peculiar cars that Ford produced in an attempt to target the sporty, fuel-efficient vehicle market. Sadly, it failed to achieve that goal by a long shot. The EXP was a small car that could only accommodate 2 people, and it was designed in such a way that it was very unmaneuverable. But its 1.6-liter engine, though capable of bearing this, was a disappointment with a mere 70 horsepower output. This car took about 14 seconds to accelerate to 60 miles per hour, making it one of the slowest cars of this class and definitely nothing remotely sporty. The EXP's design was severely compromised, cramming a hatchback into an already cramped frame, resulting in an unattractive final product. Another drawback was the missing aggressive styling, which is quite common in muscle cars, which made it look less appealing on the track. Ford attempted to market the EXP as a cheap, fun alternative for young people, but its inadequacy in terms of performance, coupled with unattractive designs, sealed its fate as a failure. Number 5, the 1971 Ford Maverick Grabber. At first glance, the 1971 Ford Maverick Grabber looks like a car that must have had a bit of muscle under the hood with its bright stripes and available V8 option. But it was all looks, no substance, and the overall performance turned out to be unconvincing. The Maverick Grabber's 5.0-liter V8 engine could only manage around 210 horsepower. In contrast, cars with the same engine, such as the Ford Mustang, could produce as much as 350 horsepower. The Maverick could not deliver the power or the speed fans were looking for, as it accelerated from 0 to 60 in 9 seconds. Which was quite acceptable, but not what one would consider impressive. Another aspect that was its weak point was its handling. It was not as sharp and spirited as expected of a muscle car. Ford built the EXP with minimal effort, using cheap plastic throughout the interior and cutting corners to meet the bare essentials. This ultimately made it feel like a run-of-the-mill B-segment commuter car rather than a bona fide performance car. Number 4, the 1970 Ford Torino 429 Cobra Jet. One might not expect the 1970 Ford Torino 429 Cobra Jet to make this list of muscle cars, since it is one of the most powerful of them. The Torino Cobra Jet featured a 429 cubic inch V8 engine capable of generating as much as 375 horsepower, enabling the car to accelerate from 0 to 60 in about 6 seconds. In theory, it was the right ingredients for a perfect muscle car. But this was just an illusion, since in reality, many components were far from ideal. The Torino, unlike any other Ford model, suffered from reliability issues and had a tendency to overheat, resulting in frequent engine failure. What should have been a beast on the tarmac ended up being a mechanic's worst nightmare for many customers. This constant overheating issue resulted in the car spending most of its time in the garage rather than on the roads. The Torino's lack of durability completely overshadowed its potential, leaving many car lovers wondering what could have happened if Ford had invested a little bit more in quality assessment. Number 3. 1974 Ford Mustang II. Whenever the Mustang comes to mind, it evokes images of a car with power, speed, and muscle. Still, unluckily, the 1974 Ford Mustang II did not have any of the aforementioned features. As a result of the oil crisis, Ford drastically reduced the size of the Mustang in a bid to improve its mileage. The result was a comparatively sized car that was sober in appearance, lacking the potent muscles of previous models. The base model's standard equipment included a 2.3-liter four-cylinder engine which generated a mere 88 horsepower, and the optional 2.8-liter V6 engine didn't step things up much with only 105 horsepower. The Mustang II's acceleration was quite poor. It took about 13 seconds to achieve a 0 to 60 mph time, making it one of the slowest Mustangs ever manufactured. As a result, Ford lost some of its audience, thus demystifying the essence of the Mustang. Number 2, the 1980 Ford Thunderbird. Taking the second place of the worst muscle cars ever made is the 1980 Ford Thunderbird. This model of the Thunderbird deviated from its high-performance origins, transforming into a bloated luxury car instead. Even in the context of being classified as a luxury vehicle, the car did not deliver the expected performance. The base 4.2-liter V8 was only good for 115 horsepower, and the 4.9-liter V8 put out merely 130 horsepower, which was only a little better than the former. The 0 to 60 mph time of 14 seconds was pathetically slow for a muscle car, making it unappealing to most muscle car enthusiasts. The Thunderbird found itself in a compromising position between luxury and performance and failed to excel in either aspect. It was big, heavy, and underpowered. None of the features that was a well-known feature of the Thunderbird was present in this model. Hence, the 1980 model was more associated with failure rather than success. Number 1. The 1979 Ford Mustang 2.3 Turbo. Finally, we come to the worst of the worst, the 1979 Ford Mustang 2.3 Turbo. Ford thought that giving the muscle car a turbocharged engine would help it regain some of its performance in a world where fuel economy was becoming stricter. The 2.3-liter turbo produced 132 horsepower, which was right for its time. However, the execution was completely off the mark. Turbo lag was an unpleasant issue that created inconsistency in power delivery and made acceleration rather slow. In addition, mechanical failures beguiled the car, such as frequent overheating, and its throttle responses were terrible at best. The Mustang turbo suspension and brakes were not compatible with the available engine, making the vehicle unsteady at high speeds. The car's sluggish acceleration, reaching 0 to 60 in 10 seconds, rendered it woefully unimpressive. The Mustang 2.3 Turbo is perhaps one of the worst examples of how to introduce turbo tech to the muscle car arena.